Hello, welcome to the show. This is The Broken Meeple, a show where I talk about board and card games, and this is Beyond the Base Game, a little mini-series where I talk about specifically expansions to games because most people don't really want to. This is the second of 3 videos I have done to Canvas. This is, Kiender has been very nice to supply me with review copies of all the Canvas material, the base game and the 2 expansions, so I've already done Reflections, which was the one that came before. This is Finishing Touches, the newest one, again in one of these big boxes. We'll get onto that in a minute, but this is basically another light edition, doesn't add much complexity, just adds a couple of rules and adds a bit more content. So what do you get in here? Well, a little bit more than you did in the previous one, although there's no board in here. This board is from the previous set. So I'd be kind of weird to ask why you would buy the third one and not buy the second one. This is kind of assuming that you would buy them all in sequence, that you would buy Canvas, then Reflections, then this one. Because if you buy this one, you won't get the board from the previous one, and then that would be just kind of weird. But here you have basically more cards with a new gimmick to them, much like the previous one had mirror cards. You now have blend cards, and you have a score pad. You have a score pad. It took you only, what, the 3rd iteration to put a score pad in the game? Man, and there's not even that many pages on it. I mean, you'll be done with this after a little while. You might want to laminate this and get one that's dry erase, but man, finally, they actually put a score pad in here. But they give you silver ribbons now, which silver ribbons are basically just flat 2 points. They appear on cards. If you get them, that's fine. But then you get these 4 big giant frames here with some little backs that you need to assemble. Annoyingly, you can't put them back in the box assemble because they will not fit. But essentially what they are is 4 frames, and this adds a competitive race element to the game, where essentially you can take one of your art pieces. I mean, I'm just going to take a transparent sleeve, for example, and once you've created an art piece with 3 of these, if you have the most of a particular symbol and this new wild symbol, you effectively get to put your card inside the frame itself, and you'll get bonus points for doing it. But if somebody beats you on the number of symbols, they can also cover your card, get points, and then at the end of the game there is some additional scoring if your card is still in a frame. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it looks cool, to have this frame with your picture in it. I mean, that is quite a cool little gimmick, although you might need to remember which one's yours. That's the only thing. But it's, really simple, as simple as that. There's not much else to explain. I mean, race to get the frames. That's kind of it. I mean, what do you expect? The rulebook is, again, only 4 pages, and most of it is set up and a couple of rule changes, which is pretty much what platinum ribbons are. They call platinum, not silver, or whatever. And, rule changes to the solo mode of 1 to 2 player mode. That's it. I mean, hell, even the setup diagram assumes that you've already bought Reflections with the board. So, reiterating what I said earlier. But pretty much it's just the blend icons and these. So what are the blend icons? Well, I put them back in their little sleeve thing because I wanted to separate them out for the time being. But essentially these function just like art pieces in general, except now there is a blend icon little paintbrush on some of the color swatches. And essentially what they are is that they're treated the same as normal icons, but they're kind of like copies. They duplicate an icon next to it. I mean, I've just found a perfect example here, right? Majestic World painting. So here I've got a color swatch symbol there, so a kind of universal color swatch symbol. Now if I put this one on top, I get a paintbrush that blends with that one there. So effectively I've copied the symbol to the next one, and that's it. I am done talking. Yeah, that's pretty much what the icon is. The only additional icon is a silver shiny little foil star, which is basically a wild symbol. They call it a creativity symbol, and it counts towards the frames that you're trying to get, but it also just counts as a wild symbol of your choice. And that's what the expansion adds. And I gotta say, as much as I gave, a little bit of leeway to Reflections, one thing I will say about these expansions is that they are now particularly cost effective. By the time you have bought all 3 of these, you are spending in the region of £90 to £100 to get this for what is a super fluffy light game. I mean, even if you include everything in here, it is super light and fluffy, which is definitely a positive. You can throw everything in the kitchen sink into a game, and it will be perfectly simple and straightforward to teach to non-gamers. It really will. If you're that desperate, you can separate out the sleeves. They do have icons on them, but do you want to go through all these transparent sleeves to find the ones that are specific to an expansion? I sure as hell don't, and it's not something I've had to do. Nobody has struggled to get this game. It's probably physically impossible not to understand the simplicity of this game. Do you do well at it? That's another story when you've thrown in both expansions, but a great gateway game should be so simple to pick up, but then give somebody good choices, a little bit of depth, and allow them to come back and enjoy more plays. But man, this expansion just feels like, you know, much like the previous one, where I feel like you've chopped up your base game in order to make more expansions. Because, I mean, a race element and one icon on the card. You could have had that in the base game. I mean, this could have easily been a base game component. Why did this need to be in an expansion? We're also now left with this storage problem, because you saw how much room these frames took up. They take up a good amount of the box, which I've got to assemble every time, which is kind of annoying. You've then got more cards. These will not fit in the deck box that you have here, so you're going to have to store them in baggies. You will not be able to store this in anything less than 2 boxes. You cannot fit this all into one box. It's not physically possible, but you could probably do it in 2. But then you have a picture that doesn't quite make sense, because again, they've gone with this gimmick of put the 3 together and you have a beautiful picture. So 1, 2, and come up. Here we go. 3. Yeah, it looks absolutely gorgeous, but it's a gimmick. And for practicality purposes, it's an annoying gimmick, and I wish they didn't do this. But sadly, it's the way of the beast. So if I want to keep this game, I now need to keep at least 2, if not all 3 of these boxes. And then when you get them out, you've then got to open up all 3 boxes, and then you've got to set it up, and then you've got to take it down, which the takedown's not exactly easy once you've got all this stuff together, because you've got to separate out all the sleeves, get them together, get the frames disassembled, put the board away, get the ribbons together. It does add a little bit of extra faff to what is not meant to be a faffy game, but at least it doesn't add any extra length. The game length is still 30 minutes with 5 players regardless. It does not take any longer. It just might take you an extra 30, 60 seconds to explain the game after all this. So all in all, it's nice, but I'm gonna have to be a bit harsher with this one. I was maybe a little bit light on reflections, because I do like the mirror cards and reflections. I do like the fact that this board added more choice, so there was a bit more impact to the game. If you took out the stuff that's in here, you wouldn't really miss it. It just adds a bit more, but not a lot more. Like, so little, you'd think, why is it an expansion? So I gotta dock it a little bit for that, not to mention I've now got to store 3 boxes instead of anything else. I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. It's above average. It does the job. It's not complex. It, you know, adds a lot more variety, all good things. But when you factor in the value here, when you factor in just how chopped up this game feels when you've got both expansions, I can't give a similar rating to, like I did for Reflections, to this one. You know, it just, especially for the money you pay for this. I mean, you're paying a good £30 to £40 for this. I forget how much they cost, but they're, you know, they're not cheap. And all you're getting is 1 new icon and some, you know, some objective scoring, which didn't even need to be in these frames. I mean, you could literally just have a space on a board and just said, there you go, that's it. But granted, it looks good, but is it worth the cost of a full-fledged expansion as well as another box of storage? That's a question you're gonna have to ask yourself. 6 out of 10 overall. It's nice, but don't feel that you need to rush out and grab it. I think the first one is better overall. That's certainly worth grabbing if you really enjoy Canvas. This one is if you really enjoy Canvas. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then thumb it up on YouTube, thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the page. Please get those thumbs in. Not this way, that way, please. And of course, don't forget to let me know your comments. What do you think about Canvas and the expansions in general? Do you think that the gimmick of the storage is a pain? Do you hang them up on your wall? Do you like the fact that, you know, it's all chopped up and sold to you in bits? You know, let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, check out the other Canvas videos if you have not already done so. Until next time, remember, regardless of whether you are also gagging for a score pad or not, it's still only a game. So take this, add up your scores, and be proud that they finally put it in, and take care and have a good time. Bye for now.